Hey folks, I am here to say that I have a bone to pick with somatoform disorders. Somatoform disorders are apparent psychiatric disorders created by the DSM, um, in which it is suggested that the patient actually feels medical symptoms that aren't there. And the list of these symptoms is pretty vast. There's pain and headaches and dizziness and circulation and stomach issues and even apparent vague food allergies are listed. Now I'm sorry, but that last one is just obvious. I've been sick with fibromyalgia for a few years. Unfortunately, I was with a GP who um, I now understand after reading this tonight equates fibromyalgia syndrome with somatoform disorder. What's even scarier is that I haven't read the DSM-5 yet, so I'm going to have to find more evidence of corroboration regarding my theory. But basically, what I heard is that the DSM-5 paid a lot of particular attention to somatoform disorders, characterizing them, elaborating on them. There have even been stories of people locked in psych wards and stuff. Scary. Like a 15-year-old girl, her parents were stripped of custody of her because she had mitochondrial wasting problem. That's a cell thing similar to chronic fatigue syndrome symptoms. And then the Boston Children's Hospital said that it was somatoform, and she's just getting sicker and sicker, and they're just insisting it's somatoform. So I don't know, I guess when things don't show up in tests and conclude that there's somatoform, could there really be somatoform? Could it really exist? Probably yes. There was something else that they called another somatization disorder, was a type of somatoform where a person actually has an actual medical issue. That somatization disorder causes that illness to be exaggerated, to be felt more, to be sort of reported in it the way that the person feels it beyond the prognosis of the disorder. So I don't know, I'm looking at the parallel problem with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and all these kind of chemical deregulated immune illnesses, and then I'm looking at this new elaboration on somatoform, and it sort of creeps me out, and I have a bone to pick with it, because now I'm seeing that maybe a lot of the medical care that I run into, even when they're nice to me or they might sympathize with me, even the support services, I don't even know, might believe that I, to some degree, have some type of somatoform disorder. You know what? I have just come to a point where I've realized that when I put unrealistic expectations in doctors from the public system who I know are in the process, who I know are opposing change, and who are afraid of the research regarding of the new information and the epidemic of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, when I have unrealistic expectations of these doctors and I perseverate over that, and for that reason I'm stressed out and I'm having PTSD, so I might be feeling my pain more, or actually making my stomach more upset, or giving myself more of a headache, or not sleeping properly, all these things, then yeah, I guess I have some sort of somatoform disorder, and I guess that's letting them win. It's not really a somatoform disorder, it's just that I'm autistic, and the way that I feel my emotional pain and my physical pain can become intertwined. So it's easy to think that I would have a somatoform disorder. It's easy to pass me off as that. But the thing is that what's not fair about that is that I have not been evaluated enough. And lucky for me, I'm going to a place called the Complex Chronic Disease Clinic. And there have been a few things that have come up for me, like a few things that show in tests. So I guess what they could say is that it's like somatization, the type where like there is an issue that's there and I'm feeling it more. Um, Maybe the other aspect to that is that I actually feel pain more and I'm a very sensitive person. That's one thing. And the other thing is maybe I'm stressed out and anxious regarding the way that I've been treated and seen and looked at, and that's causing me more pain and more upset and making me have, like I said, right, broken record. Here's my issue with somatoform. Here's my issue with this scary elaboration of all these somatoform disorders. It honestly really does creep me out because when I read the symptoms of somatoform, they're the same symptoms that people are going to naturopaths over for imbalances and issues with the, what's going on in our environment. You know, what I foresee when I read this thing is I'm like, well, first of all, how's that going to work with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue? Because a lot of these symptoms of somatoform are also symptoms of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. Are they going to try and debunk fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue? Well, they can't really do that. There's research that's coming up about, aspects of FMS and CFS and how it's real. And I don't understand how that could really come in with a wave of debunking. It would have to be a pretty powerful silencer. They would have to start shutting down research, and maybe I have too much expectation of this clinic. Maybe they're already trying to shut it down. I've heard rumors about that. I don't know. I mean, they seem really nice there, but it freaking scares me because I'm not meaning to sound paranoid, but you know what? The GMOs are poisoning us. There's crap in the environment that is poisoning us. We're being poisoned, and yeah, that's screwing us up in the body and it's screwing us up neurologically. Sensitive people are going to react and have like allergenic vague reactions, and they're going to feel like shitty, and they're going to have circulation stuff and like intolerances and all kinds of these kinds of symptoms that are apparently symptoms of somatoform. You know what? I'm sorry. I don't think that's in the head. I don't think that there's going to be there's a class of people that are so ill that they mentally ill that they convince themselves. I mean, you'd have to be really like traumatized and screwed up. And now that's the argument with me is that I do have PTSD and I have been pretty traumatized. So yeah, I don't doubt that maybe I feel pain more because of that, but I also have issues and some of them are kind of embarrassing. So they're hard to talk about, like gut wise and things that are it's kind of obvious that I have a problem, and maybe I don't talk about some of those things enough because they are kind of a personal nature. Dental stuff that it just is wrong. I've had problems with my teeth for no reason, even though I really take care of them, and brittle nails, and like I'm not well. I'm not lying about that. Like maybe I do. Sometimes my stress makes me exaggerate it more, but I'm not lying. I mean, I've been pretty like affected lately. So what scares me about this somatoform thing is I foresee that this big interest in these disorders and how emphasized it is in the new DSM is an attack on fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, and more potential diagnoses of this. In retrospect, it's saying that in order to diagnose it, all other stuff has to be ruled out. So that's a liability issue, I guess, out of, in fairness, or that maybe there's some degree of compromise there that way they can kind of check to see if a person is more seriously ill with something enough that where if they call them somatoform, they can get a lawsuit. If a person is diagnosed as somatoform and goes on to develop a serious acute illness of some sort or whatever, then they can be sued for that. So then maybe they'll rule out that, and then they don't really care about things like intolerances and allergies and imbalances that will continue to plague a person for the rest of their life because that's not life-threatening. So they can write that part off as somatoform. They also don't have tests to show those kinds of imbalances unless somebody, well, actually, no, that's not true. There are tests. They're integrative naturopathic tests, and they're often very expensive. So they might pick on somebody who's poor, who's not likely to ever be able to afford those kind of tests, and stamp them with somatoform. They've ruled out that the person isn't really ill, um, really dangerously ill with something that they could be liable for, and they don't really care if the person has imbalances, and this person is not likely to be able to afford um, to prove their case by going over to the, greatest integrative clinic of Switzerland, and finding out the enzymatic imbalances and the very detailed cellular testing that will show these imbalances and prove them to be, in fact, truthfully existing. So maybe if somebody is more middle class and might be able to fork out that kind of money, they might be a bit more wary of throwing out a somatoform diagnosis unless the person hasn't been able to obtain. The reality is that sometimes these illnesses are just so complex and so weird and insidious and reacting to like new chemicals and whatever, that there aren't tests to diagnose them yet. So I guess that makes somebody somatoform. I'm sorry, but I feel like this is a created thing. This somatoform crap is a created thing. Of course, it's funny that I'm attacking this because I was given a diagnosis of factitious disorder by some. I'm not even gonna. She's the B word is not even good enough a strong enough description for this person that she is, the cruel person who did that to me. Anyway, I was given this diagnosis. It was cruel, and it's going to get proven wrong. And what sucks is that if I were to go to court and do that, I might have to argue with a partial somatization, meaning like, oh yeah, she has fibromyalgia and some issues, but she has a partial somatoform problem where she like feels it more. If I don't have the money to prove, one day I will. I feel and hope that I will make the money to prove that I'm telling the truth on some of these things. And on the other end of it, I can acknowledge that maybe there are some things that happen to me where I do feel more pain, or at least negate my pain more, or get upset, and then my stomach gets, that some of it I could bring upon myself because I'm autistic and have troubles with anxiety, and I have a difficult, challenging life. I have a lot of life challenges, and a lot of things to keep up with. So anyway, there's multi-factors to it. I resent the somatoform thing because what I believe is the core truth, that nothing is really somatoform, and that it's not made up. It's just not the answers. The tests haven't been researched yet and whatnot. I don't believe that I believe that very few of people who've been diagnosed with this thing, and scarily I foresee a lot more people are going to get diagnosed with it, which I think is just kind of evil, personally. Another symptom of somatoform, FYI, is when people perceive their symptoms to be serious because they don't feel good, and then they become more worried and with more urgency, want it to be found out what they are. They become more urgent in needing a diagnosis. That kind of follows the pattern of someone who has a chronic mystery illness for in which there isn't research for, who's frustrated with that. I really don't think that person is coming from nowhere. I just think that person is becoming increasingly frustrated, and frustration is going to increase pain. It is going to worsen health, and then the health's going to worsen, and then the person spirals down in a cycle. Have I done this? Yeah, I have. I've done this exact thing, and I'm tired of doing it, and that's why I've got my herbal medication that I'm going to start soon, and I'm just going to start exercising, and I'm going to start, like my autism activist says, managing my expectations. I know full well what the public medical system is like. I know full well that I disagree with their beliefs, and I'm never going to back down on the truth that I believe in. I still have to deal with them. There might be some time where I still might need them, and I still have to sort of find ways to be able to work with them and just agree to disagree, and not, because it's like a mouse to a lion. There's no way I can win on any of that. They're giants, and I'm just little me down here. I mean, there's lots of people who feel the way I do out there, And I'd really like it if you could share this video. I know I look terrible today, and I'm not having a good day, but I really felt that I needed to share about this somatoform stuff. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that it's going to become something that is going to be overdiagnosed, um, and therefore omit the need to get the money for more research to, expose these things. Because ultimately, what if most of these things are connected to shit like GMOs? I mean, has anyone watched Russian roulette? I mean, what GMOs do to our body, um, for in which some people are much more affected than others, is pretty bad, and they could produce a lot of these somatoform symptoms. So, yeah, that's what I think somatoform is. And back to this factitious thing, I mean, it's funny, like I said, it's funny I'm taking on this somatoform thing because it's actually a lot nicer of a diagnosis than factitious. Factitious is a diagnosis where a person deliberately and intentionally fakes and feigns their symptoms. That's definitely not what I'm doing and never have done. So I might have to argue that, oh yeah, I have fibromyalgia and partial somatization because, I get stressed out about it, and which is partially true, when you look at it in that particular way. I just like to go deeper, and I understand in my heart, I understand what the why really is. But if I have to argue that, then that's a fair argument. That's a much more fair thing to say. Rose was just affected by her fibromyalgia and the stress in her life, and like she definitely wasn't like calculating anything. Absolutely not. Like it's real, and then she's sensitive and may feel pain more, and stress and anxiety and whatever, right? Um, so yeah, that's ironic that I might have to say that I am partially somatic, uh, taking that with a grain of salt. But the point I'm getting at is that somatoform in general, my fear is that it's going to become overdiagnosed, and that it was created in such that it was so elaborated on in the new DSM with the intentions that I mentioned previously. That scares me. That's food for thought. I'd like to share this on wellness walls and stuff. I'll be back soon. Now that my kids are back in school, I'm gonna try really hard to recover and get on these new herbs that I've got for myself, prescribed by the student school, and get into better cycles, and do my Pilates, and yeah, I'm just pray for me that I get better. I've got an awesome blog coming up, series of blogs that I'm working on. So yeah, I'm not feeling that great right now. I don't look great. I know I look horrible. I know I look like I just lived in a closet for a week, but maybe I did. Yeah, for real. It's concerning. Somatoform disorder. You have to worry about the intention. Peace out.